Hi, and welcome to another Type with me. In this week's episode, I want to talk about Typescript interface multiple inheritance. So imagine that we have two interfaces, a person and an employee, right? And then I want to define an interface, developer, which extends person and employee. And I want to give it an extra parameter, right? I'm going to give it language. And I'm going to put this one, gender, just as an optional parameter. Now I'm going to define my constant myself, because I'm a developer. And it's of type developer, right? You need to know that multiple inheritance, that's not possible with it when you have classes, right? So if you do something like this, class A, then you have something like this, class B, then I want to do this, class C extends A, B. Then you will see that he's complaining. Classes can only extend a single class, right? So that's the difference between an interface and a class. A class doesn't support multiple inheritance. You will see also within Java, within C# that it's not possible to have multiple inheritance. A lot of programming languages have their restrictions on that. But when you are defining interfaces, definitions of how an object needs to look like, which properties he does have, you can do multiple inheritance. So don't let you trick into that it's not possible. Well, within interfaces it's possible, right? So first name, and my last name, then my salary, whatever, and my language. Of course it's Typescript, right? Of course. What else do I need to give, right? It's normal. So another way to define a type could be type programmer, for example, and it's also a person and it's an employee. So that's also a different way to do multiple inheritance by using a person and employee. An alternative to define it, like what you define above. The only thing that you need to know is if you want to extend with extra parameters like with language, well, then you need to have this way and not this way, right? Right, so the last thing that I want to show you is, for example, we can add here ID and then we can say that it's a number, for example, within employee. Now, if you want to use something like this, you want to have an ID, but then ID is not a number, it's a string, well, then you can use the type Omit. And with Omit, we can do ID and then here string, right? So he will not complain about that. If I do this, you will see here that he's saying, hey, developer incorrectly extends interface employee, type of property ID are incompatible. So we're using Omit for that. That's also something that's very important that you do, right? If I do then here ID, something and everything is just fine, right? So this is something that I want to learn to you, right? Very easy and useful techniques to define interfaces. Imagine that you also want to adapt salary. Well, you can very easily do so by use the union type. Of course, now we need to define a salary. And that's something that's interesting to see, right? So I'm gonna remove it, and then you will see here that we get an error. And why is that? Type is not assignable to type developer. Object literal may only specify known properties, and salary does not exist in type developer. And that's because we have removed it with the omit. We have removed it. And then of course we need to redefine it with another type. And we could do that then with string or something like that. Well, again, it doesn't matter. Another thing that you could do, and that I didn't mention yet, is I'm just gonna copy paste this one. Imagine that we want to do this, right? ID. So maybe employee can be of type string, number or string, right? And then we can, when you extend it, narrow it down to that it only needs to be a string and not a number. That's something that's also possible, right? So this is all that I can tell about this subject, multiple inheritance of interfaces, and that it's possible within TypeScript, that you can do multiple inheritance, and that it's very useful in my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can use it in your own projects and have the benefits out of it, right? Thank you very much for watching this video, and see you next time. Happy coding!